Hey guys, today we're going to be going over one of the worksheets that I posted. It's the lesson 16.1 Properties of Logarithms worksheet. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to write these logarithms as a single logarithm, okay? And over here on the right, I put all of the properties that you need to know. Now, on the test, you're going to get to use your notes and stuff, so what I would do is I would carefully follow along with me and write down what you see, because really, everything that we do is just combining these properties and using the properties that you see here and just rewriting these logarithms. So the key to this problem specifically is that I see this right here, okay? So when I see the plus sign, I can look and I can say, okay, this looks like the product property. The product property has the plus sign in it, and it looks pretty much the same. They have the same base, and there's two different, so there's the M, 9 is the M, and 24 is the N. So I can put them together. So I'm going to say log 3, okay, because you can see that my base is here, okay, and I'm going to erase that. So I got log 3, and I'm going to do 9 times 24, okay? Now I wrote it out for your benefit. If you don't want to write it out, that's okay, okay? So when you multiply 9 times 24, this gives you log 3 of 216. And this is your answer, okay? Now, do you see how I use that property? That's what you need to do. You need to be able to look at your properties and say, okay, this is what it looks like. So for number 2, I'm going to look at my properties and I'm going to say, okay, this looks like my power property, okay? Because I've got the power right here. And I've got my power here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write it like this. So I'm going to bring my property down, or my exponent down to the front. And I get 3 log 4 of 16. Okay? Now, what you can do is you can solve this. Okay? Or what you can do is you do 3, so you can solve 3 times log 4 of 16. Okay? So log 4 of 16 is 2, so you can do 3 times 2, okay, and that gives you 6, and that's your value, okay? And the reason I was able to do that is, if you remember, we did 4x equals 16, and what times 4, so you can do 4x equals 4 something, and so here my 4x is 16 is 4 squared, so I would say x equals 2. Okay, and that's how I got 3 times 2. So here for the next one, I am going to look at my properties again, and you'll see me scroll back and forth to look at it. And I see I've got a minus sign here, okay? So I've got my oops, that's my erase. I've got my minus sign, or my subtraction. So I'm going to look at my properties and see that I see the subtraction here in the quotient property, okay? Right here is my quotient property. So I'm going to use that. So I've got my log b, so my base is 2, so log 2. And my m is going to be 7, and my n is 9. Okay, log 2 of 7 over 9. Okay, now you cannot reduce 7 over 9. So I'm going to leave this as my answer. Okay, do you see how I use that property? I started by looking at my logarithm and saying, okay, what do I see that looks familiar, comparing it to my chart, and then pulling my chart, the information from my chart. So here we go. We got log 3, 8 to the 5th. Now this looks a lot like the problem that I did in number 2. So I can say, okay, this is probably the power property again. So my power property, I'm going to write it here for myself, is log b m n equals n log b of m. This is just for my sake, so that I don't have to scroll back and forth, because I don't have them memorized. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I do my log b, which is log 3. That's this, okay, and 8, so 8. But what I have to do is I have to bring my 5 down, so my 5 is going to come into the front. Okay, so I can do log 3 to the 8th. Okay, or what you can do is you can type this into your calculator. Okay, so what Mrs. Cuevas wrote is you can leave it as this, since 3 to the 8, so if you do 3x equals 8 is a decimal number, I would leave it. It's a decimal or not even number. Okay? I will leave it as this. I will not be giving you an answer on the test or a question on the test that makes you have to give me a decimal answer or that isn't going to simplify further. So if this is the farthest you can get, then that is perfectly acceptable for me. Okay? You've showed me that you understand the properties. So here we have this. We have log 4x minus log 4y. So key here is the subtraction. Okay, so I see this is my quotient property, and my quotient property says that the log, this is going to end up looking like log b m over n. Okay, that's what it's going to look like. So I write this in the form log b is log 4. Okay, that's my log b. Log b equals log 4. Okay. And my m is x and n is y, so I get x over y. And that is your answer. Okay. Finally, we have log 5 plus log 7. Now, this is going to be, that's my eraser again, the plus sign, okay? That's my key here. So my plus sign, that's going to be my product property, okay? So I can combine these into one function, log b m n. Okay, the product property. Okay, now if these had different bases, okay, so here the log, it's log 1 is our base, okay? That's our base here. So I'm going to say if they had different bases, such as log 5 of 5 and log 7 of 7, that's going to give you a completely different thing. You can't combine it. But here they're the same base, so I can just write them as one equation. So I get log 5 times 7 log of 35. And if you really want to, you can simplify this with your calculator, but I'm going to just leave it like this. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to expand these logarithms. So what we just did is we combined the different parts of the logarithms. We combined the expanded versions, and now we're going to take the combined version and we're going to expand it. So here I have log 3 of 27x. Now, at first sure you might have a little trouble with this one, but what I want you to imagine is I want you to look at this and say log 3, 27 times x. Okay, so what does that look like now? This looks like the quotient property. Okay, so what you do is you separate it out. So the quotient property, if I go back up here, or not the quotient property, I'm sorry, this is the product property, not the quotient property. Okay, so the product property says that this can be separated into two equations that are added up. Okay, so they're going to separate into log b of x plus log b of y. So I'm going to separate that. I get log 3 is x plus log 3, 27. Okay. Now, it doesn't matter which way you write this. It can be log 3x plus log 327 or log 327 plus log 3x. Now, the reason it doesn't matter which way you write them is because this is addition. If it was subtraction, that would be different. Okay? So this one, okay? Now, first thing that I think when I see this is I think division. And the property that I know that has been division is our quotient property, okay? So our quotient property, I'm going to come down here. Our quotient property means that this log bmn is going to be separated into log bm minus log bn. Very important that you note that log bm minus log bn is the correct order, not the opposite way around, okay? So I'm going to do log b. My log is 1 here, okay? So log 1, or I'll just write it as regular log. I'm going to do log 3 minus log 7, and that is my answer, okay? So here, I see that we've got some exponents, and I know that one of my properties, it deals with exponents, okay? And that one is the power property, okay? So the power property states that you've got log bm to the n is n log bm, but also we have another property going on here. We have the product property. Okay, so this is the power and the product property. Okay, so we got log bmn is log bm plus log bn. Okay, so here I've got my log b is 4. Okay, and I'm going to separate this out so you see y squared and z 3. Okay, that's how I know this is the product property. Okay, so that's how you know this is the product property. So we're going to separate that out. So I'm going to do this step by step for you. So I got log 4 y squared plus log 4 z cubed. So then I have to bring these down because of the power property. Okay, so this is 2 log 4 y plus 3 log 4 z. Okay, and this is your answer. And for another problem that we have a couple different things again. Okay, now first thing I notice is the exponent. That's just one of the most obvious things that I can see here. Okay, so I've got my exponent, so I think power property. And then I see that we've got some division. So I'm going to think, okay, that's the quotient property. Quotient property. Okay. So my base here is log 5. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use the quotient property and I'm going to separate it. Make it into something that's more recognizable to me, at least. If you want to do the power property first, that's up to you. But to me, it's easier to do quotient property and then use the power property. So I go log 5, 3 squared minus log 5x. Then I got to bring the 2 down. Okay, and I get 2 log 5, 3 minus log 5x. And that is your answer. So, again, I have a logarithm here that I look at and I go, this could be, something that I recognize, but I'm going to separate it out for you so that you can give me your best guess. So log 4, 15, and y. If you recognize that, then you know that this is the product property. Okay? Product property states that I can separate these into 2 different things and add them together. So I got log 4 of 15 plus, because it is product, log 4 of y. And that is your answer. Okay? Oh, and then we've got our final answer. And I realized that I actually wrote this problem wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the correct way to do this, the one that was featured on your worksheet. So I did kind of a hint. But we're going to do log 4 15xy. Okay, so this is actually a good question because we see that we've got 3 things multiplying together. We've got log 4 15 times x times y. These can be written as 3 different functions. Okay, so we've got log 4 15 plus log 4x plus log 4y. Okay? And that is the answer for that one. So finally, we have log 8xz4. Okay? Now, I kind of wrote this a little wonky, so I'm going to rewrite it because the z looks like it could be an exponent too, but it is not. So here we go again. It looks like I've got the product property. Okay? So I'll rewrite it so it looks more like something you can recognize. Log, okay, then I'm going to do 8 times x times z4, okay? And then I've also got an exponent here, okay? So this is going to be the power property. Oops, wrote that. Power property, okay? So I can write these as 3 separate functions and add them together. Log 8 plus log x plus log z4. Then I have to bring this out here. So I go log 8 plus log x plus 4 log z. Okay? And that is the answer to this worksheet. Okay? So we just did a lot of working with the product property, the quotient property, okay? And I know that the one that we didn't go over is the change of base property, okay? So we'll go over that one in a different video, but I hope this gives you guys a little more of an insight and a better understanding of the properties for logarithms.